Myrtle rust is a rust fungus. Its scientific name is Puccinia sidii, formerly Puccinia sidii, more commonly known as myrtle rust. It's a native to South America and was introduced to Australia around about 2010. Unfortunately, probably accidentally introduced, and since then it has actually spread pretty widely through the natural ecosystem, mainly on the east coast of Australia in New South Wales and Queensland. And it is well entrenched east of the Great Dividing Range in many different ecosystems. It's also affecting a range of different industries, primarily some of the native oil industries, lemon myrtle being the main one, but also the nursery and garden industries. The biggest problem with myrtle rust for Australia is the fact that we really have a really high number of myrtaceae, greater than 2,000 different species. They make up a large proportion of some of our fragile ecosystems. They also include some of our iconic species, such as eucalyptus, melaleuca, or the bottlebrush, and our lily pillies. They're important not only from an environmental but a social perspective, from an Indigenous side of things, but also commercially. They're used obviously in gardens, landscaping, urban forestation, plus then obviously the food and oil industries, which is a developing industry. And the impacts range from very minor through to tree death. We're actually starting to see localised extinction of some of the species in our native ecosystems. But from a commercial perspective, oil production in lemon myrtle plantations has been reduced in some areas and sometimes by 70%. And it's difficult to obviously control, being a food product, and the use of fungicides is fairly limited. Most recently it's actually started to appear in New Zealand, which is obviously a significant threat and concern to their manuka industry, which relies on myrtaceae, a leptospermum species, but also some of their iconic species. When looking at some of these sites, particularly some of these wet sclerophyll sites, we're seeing a total interruption in terms of the flowering and fruit production. Some of these species just are not flowering or producing fruit. And these sites where myrtaceae are dominant, it's likely to have that flow-on effect in that there's just no food source, be it flowers or fruit. Similarly, in the Melaleuca quinquenervia ecosystems, which they're important species in these fragile wetland systems, we're seeing a reduction in flowering rates. There are individuals that are resistant, but we're getting 20 to 30% flowering across the populations. So what impact is that having on some of our flying fox species, some of these bird species that are migratory, particularly this time of year where it is a dominant flowering species? We just don't know some of those flow-on effects, and some of those effects may not be realised for many, many years. So this project was really designed at trying to come up with ways of assessing impacts both in a glasshouse system and also native ecosystems, so we can then work out then what species are going to be affected, but at the same time also working out how we might be able to manage these particular issues within different industries and even the native ecosystem. From that research we've been able to identify a range of different hosts that obviously have had importance from the commercial side of things and allowed management in terms of the nursery. They've been able to select more resistant material and remove a lot of their susceptible species out of the systems. But in terms of managing in the native ecosystems, that is going to be a real challenge going forward. And I don't know that we'll come up with an easy solution. We've certainly identified which species should be priority in terms of conservation, and which areas we see as being high risk in terms of long-term impact. Yeah, I mean the CRC's been fantastic. It's been the only support we've had in terms of funding for myrtle rust research. It's obviously been a little bit unique for me coming from a forestry side of things, where forestry research was never really in the CRC before. So it's given that opportunity to, I guess, to meet a whole group of different people who with a biosecurity focus, and I guess open up opportunities to engage more and hopefully then develop more of a forestry angle as well to integrate with the rest of horticulture and other agricultural crops. We've now got 2 students, one working on the lemon myrtle industry, Emily Lancaster, and one also working on the impact in native ecosystems, Laura Fernandez, down at Macquarie University. And their research has been valuable, both from an industry perspective and from an environmental perspective, and I think they'll both have good careers going forward, but I think the CRC support and their structure with those programs has been excellent.